Okay. Hi people, welcome back. We have Sunshine here. She's just on my lap, so we'll just... Also, I'm totally wearing my pajamas right now, and I don't care. So if you don't like the fact that I'm wearing my pajamas, I'm not sorry. My mom came back over the weekend to do some stuff at their old house, and she just left this morning, so I'm like sad. And then I was looking through old pictures to see if there were any to show you guys today, and I was like crying. So
and a tear stream down my face, yeah. If we could only have this life one day. If we could only turn back time. You know I'll be your life, your voice, your reason to be.
Here we go. So here it is, journal number 5, yay! This journal, oh my goodness, I love this journal. There is a definite shift in the way I write in my journal with this one. This is jam-packed full of really, really special memories to me. So let's rate it. Scale of happiness, I'm giving it a 9, baby. And this journal went to, oh no, I should have made a list. Oh well, I'll type it all down and it will go across the screen. I'm too lazy. Whoa, so many places. That's so cool. And this journal was given to me by my grandmother. Again, grandma coming in with the win in journal land. And it even came with a matching photo album. Which, speaking of photo albums, I found some pictures to share with you. I'm not going to show them to you just yet, but I have some pictures. This is my Bethany journal. Dun, da, da, da. So we have 5th book, when I started it, July 15th. When I ended it, November something. I can't read it backwards. I have my code again. So let's talk about Bethany. Bethany is actually 2 people. So just like my Tara journal, I had 2 Taras. I have 2 Bethanys. One of them was a very sweet girl. When I started my Jenny journal, she's the Bethany I was talking about. If I ever said Beth or Bethany, it was that one. She was very sweet. I saw her, I think, the last time, 2006. And then the other Bethany is a Bethany that I met while I was writing in this journal. Oh, things are falling out. And guess what happened? She ended up marrying my brother, and she's my sister-in-law now.
And she's Amish.
So I'm going to show you a picture of her. I don't have a picture of the other Bethany. I do, but they're all like taped in. You know how people used to have film cameras and they would like print out the pictures and then you put them in photo albums? I did that. So that's what she looked like basically when I met her. Because this is her senior picture. She's beautiful. I love her. I'm so glad my brother married her because I love her. The last time I saw her was when I went to go visit them in June, and we had some amazing conversations. And then this is what her and my brother looked like when they started dating. People saw this picture and thought they were brother and sister, and I was like, well, you're not super wrong. Anyway, so that's Bethany, my sister-in-law. I remember one time my friend Derek was reading a story that I wrote, and he's like,
people cry on every page.
And so I was reading this journal, and what Derek said came to mind, and I was like, I'm crying on every page. I definitely know I took a lot of things too seriously. There were entries in here where I was like, take a deep breath. If I was going to use one word to describe this journal,
actually it's not one word, it's 2 words.
I would say growing pains. Because this journal is when I start wanting to give myself a hug. Because I'm facing things that are difficult and hard, and I really don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so some honorable mentions of stories in this journal is I went to Mexico in this journal. I went to Mexico with my brother. This picture is actually from that trip. I hate this picture of me. I really, really do. But it's really sweet because this is me and Brendan. And I was on the bus. And I look like a crazy person. And I kind of regret showing that to you. So we went to Mexico. It was a really great trip. I don't remember feeling nervous about going on this trip. I was going without my parents. But I just felt so safe. And it's probably because I had so many people who loved me that were going. I was really grateful my friend Emily went. I really wanted her to go because she's my age. And everybody else that I knew that was going was like my brother's age or older. And so she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And I was like, really? And it was a really fun trip for us. July 19th, 2003, I was in Mexico. During my time there, I got injured quite badly. I was running and I tripped and I fell on my knee and my elbow. I slammed my head into the trash can that was on the sidewalk, one of those big metal trash cans. People saw me and I got really embarrassed and I was like, oh, like I just tripped and wiped out hardcore. And so I go into the bathroom and it had been raining, so I got mud on my pants. And one of the ladies, actually it was Dave Sr.'s mom. Dave Sr.'s mom went into the bathroom where I was washing off and she was like, your elbow's bleeding. And I was like, okay, but like my head hurt because I just whacked it against the metal trash can. And then my knee hurt because I landed on it. And I was like, my knee feels funny. So I pulled on my pant leg to see my knee and it was like massive. I had this huge lump sticking off of it, and of course like I have arthritis, so my joints are already like crap. And so that obviously didn't help and I like started freaking out. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Don't take me to the hospital, my mom's not here. Like I was so afraid of having to go to the hospital without my mom, but thankfully just the swelling went down. It was all fine. We bandaged up my elbow. It was all good. I was reading about it and I was like, oh, everybody cared. And it was really interesting because I said something, I don't remember which part it was in, so I'm not going to try to find it, but I'll just summarize it. I wrote, well, now you're getting the attention that you wanted. Because I was pretty invisible, and it was on that trip that a bunch of boys decided to rate all the girls according to like physical looks. And they had a category for personality, so I got some points. But I mean, I'm not the type of girl that a teenage boy was gonna look at and be like,
Ooh, she's a hottie.
I look 13 now. Just imagine how young I looked when, I mean, you saw the picture of me with Brendan. This is what I looked like. This is what I looked like. I'm not on that list. Anyways, so I remember being like, well, now I'm getting attention and now I feel like people are noticing me. And like I was aware of it, even like as it was happening, and I wrote about that. Getting into my motives of my heart now, you know? So 15-year-old Bailey definitely was changing how she journaled, which
I'm here for it.
my family and I went on a across the country car trip from Wisconsin to Oregon, and I made basically a spreadsheet with all the details. I just was way into it. And it was also while we were on that trip, when we were in Oregon, that I saw Dave Jr. By the time I come back from Morocco, he'll be engaged or close to it, and I won't have to worry about it anymore. Maybe I'll be engaged or be a couple when I come back. Who knows? God does, and he knows best. So I'll wait till he says go, and I know I'll get the best of the bunch. But right now, it is hard to keep myself straight when you think boys like you. Well, it's supper time now. Sorry I didn't write much. So I saw Dave Jr., and then I saw him again later on, and I was like, you know what? I'm just glad to be his friend. Because it was really sweet. The moment that I wrote about, when I saw him in September, I was visiting his church for the weekend with my family. and we were at game night, and I was like, he was playing this game, making jokes with me, and then like we played Heart and Soul on the piano, and it was like perfect. And then he had to leave, but he was waiting for his ride, so I went out and waited with him, and it was like dark, and the stars were really bright. I went back and I just wrote it all in my journal like straight away, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be his friend. So when we went to Oregon, we had a pop-up camper that we pulled behind us. And I took a thread of that camper and I tied it around the spiral right here. Summer 2003, just tied up right there. Another event that happened while I was writing this journal is I got ear surgery. I had ear surgery because both of my eardrums ruptured and I used to be quite deaf. Which we know because of the story of Jessica with the zipper earrings. I have now, Jessica, so I got ear surgery on my right ear, but cool fact, if I put my finger in my ear, or even if I just like pull on it here, the right side of my tongue tingles. And it's like has like a metallic-y taste. And I remember watching the video before I got my surgery, and they said that that was one of the side effects, and I was like, if I push this in, especially like all right there, I can feel it, and I was like,
That's the side effect that's on the video.
I'm going to read a couple entries that have Becky in them, just so you can kind of get a feel for what our friendship was. But she was such a good friend, and there's so many like memories in here that as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that. So I'm just gonna share some of them, and I know I'll send this to Becky. So hey Becky, what's up? I hope you like these memories as much as I do. Okay, so Becky came over for supper. I had to wash dishes and she stuck around until I was done. Thanks, Becky. Then she left, but I went with her, and so did Talia. So we went down to the front of the other building where Brendan, Josh, and Jerry were. We had been talking up at the house before we went down about brown nosing because Demetrius said he'd smelled Malik's butt. Malik was wearing a diaper, he's a baby. We all smelled his butt, see if he needs to be changed. And I said, are you a brown noser? So Josh had brown paint on his fingers and said, I told Brendan I was brown nosing him. And Becky and I just look at each other and laugh. We just knew what each other was thinking. We're such good friends. Then Becky, trying to make a face for disgusted. And I was helping her, and Brendan said, what's that called? And I said, disgusted. And Brendan said, that's what your mom said when you came out. And I didn't shout or anything. I just got a hurt look on my face and turned to walk away. But Becky puts her arm out and says, that's not true, and tries to stop me. But Brendan comes over and puts his arm around me and says, you know I was just joking, right? And I say yes, because I did. I just wanted attention. And Jerry said, no, she said, put it back, put it back. And Brendan said, let's hit him. So he makes my hands punch, and I give a kick, and Brendan and Becky both say,
Wow, that's impressive.
Once Brendan lifted me up and leaned me over Becky and said, Becky, catch! And lets me drop. And I scream. I mean, scream. But Brendan caught me, and Becky just stayed huddled up with her arms in front of her. Like, for me, that was scary, but I can't imagine being the one that's about to have a whole person dropped on you. Okay, here's another one. So this is me and Becky just hanging out by ourselves. Quentin and I went down to the main building where a lot of the people usually hung out, but no one was there. So we go to look down at something down the hallway, and when I look back, I see Becky. And she says, I heard you. And I said, so you came down to see me? And she says, yep. And I say, aw, you're such a nice friend. And she even put her arm around me. When we go back out, Quentin leaves us, and Becky and I are in the lobby when the payphone upstairs rings. So we go up, but by the time we got there, it's done. So we just sit on the couch. We see an island in the Indian Ocean called Mail. We're like, oh, so that's where they came from. Becky and I were laughing so hard I thought we were going to die when we were talking about those things that they hook up to you when you can't get up to go to the bathroom. We were thinking about if you had to keep it in your purse. We laughed so hard. We could have talked all night. I should go to bed now since it's 10:09 p.m. I just want to say that Becky walked me home, and both she and Josh think I'm not loud and obnoxious. So I have to go. Bailey. Every so often I'll write like, I wrote Becky a letter, and poor Becky. She was 19. And when you're like 14, 15 and you see a 19-year-old, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so old. Like, you know how to drive, you're graduating from high school. And I look back now and I'm like, when I was 19, I didn't know what I was doing with my life, let alone trying to help some 15-year-old girl. And then a boy comes and I get freaked out. Because if you remember, I'm a sponge. I don't remember if people love me unless they're telling me all the time. So even though it's so obvious, and I was looking back and I was reading all these entries, and then every so often there would be an entry where I'm like,
I don't even know if Becky likes me anymore.
I was just really insecure.
You're insecure, don't know what for.
That was me just being 15 years old and thinking like, well, if Becky and I are best friends, then we should be able to talk, and I want to know everything, and I want to know how she feels about this boy, and I want to know how this boy feels about her, and I don't like it when I think that they're leaving me out. And I wasn't really taking into account that I was 15 and they were like 19 and 20 years old. I had an entry where I was talking about how upset I was that Becky just wanted to talk to the boy. And I was like, no duh, she just wants to talk to the boy.
That was the boy she liked.
And they were very good at including me when they could include me. They were very good at telling me things that, I mean, I was 15 years old. They didn't have to include me, and they did. From October 27th, 2003, it was cold and gray, and there was snow. I said, hey, the snow isn't sticking, so it's mostly sleep type stuff. I just came up from down at the other building. Everybody was in a meeting, so Becky was just sitting in the lobby when I went down. It was snowing, so I said, Becky, it's snowing, you should see. So we just sat there for a little bit, and then she said, do you want to go outside? And I say, yeah. So we go out, and we talk about a bunch of nothing until we get up the hill, and she says, what's up? And then she says, I say that a lot, don't I? And I say, it's a good conversation starter. And I ask her, so what do you feel about this boy that she likes? Do you feel like he's still a friend, or do you think you'll ever be more than friends? And she's like, I like him. And I say, I don't blame you. And she says, for liking him? And I'm like, yeah, because he's so nice. And I tell her that I know a lot of guys have liked her, and they did. I told her that I spent the first week and a half not liking this guy, and how I didn't want him to like her or her to like him. But I gradually got used to the idea, and as you know, now I like him too. Then we talked about good personal qualities that we liked in him. I said how I liked it, how he made it right when he did something wrong. And then I told her I try to always not set my hopes, try not to set my hopes on my expectations because they're way too high and people aren't going to reach for them. That's why I wrote letters, and if they meet my expectations, cool. If not, oh well, because it's selfish and self-centered of me to not tell you what they are and then get upset about them. So I was saying something along those lines when Becky interrupts me and says, Bailey? Yeah? Bailey, you are so mature. I did not know what to say. She puts her arm around me and says, I just wanted you to know that. I say thanks, that means a lot to me. We talk about leaving too. And then we walked without talking for a while. I gave her a hug when we got inside and said, thanks. I needed to talk. I love talking with her because she doesn't act better or more experienced or more mature than me like some people have. Becky said she can't talk with anybody like she does with me. Then another girl came in and they ate chips and salsa, which if you've read the thing about balloons, you know why that's important. I'm just so glad we had our heart-to-heart Becky Bailey talk. Well, I'm tired, so I'll TM out. And then I signed my name, Bayleaf, because Becky called me Bayleaf. Like, our friendship, I don't want to cry. Our friendship is so important to my life. Like, I would not be who I am today if Becky hadn't been who she was in my life. I would not have known that I could be heard, that I was worth someone's time and energy. She was so good to me. Some of you might want to know what Becky looks like. I have some pictures of her, but just so you remember, this was before digital cameras were accessible to the poor people of the world, so I just had film cameras. So here's a picture of Becky driving, and then here's a picture of Becky and I in 2006. So it was in this journal that I met someone who became very very important to me. And his name is Sean. I met him in September. At that point in time, my life was in a lot of transition. I was feeling a lot of big emotions, and yes, I was dramatic, but he always made me feel seen and heard, and he valued what I had to say, even if I was being really emotional. And there were times when he would sit me down and be like,
Squirt, you're dramatic.
and I needed that voice in my life. I ended this journal November 9th, 2003. It was cold and sunny. And I said, hey, well, I guess this is goodbye, because it was my last page. I've really enjoyed writing in you. I don't mind that I got behind in the summer, because I didn't actually even finish writing about my Mexico trip. I wrote about a couple of the main things that happened, and then that was it. But you have, before Mexico, Becky dropped me in the lake. I'll never forget that. You have Mexico, getting a horrible bruise, hanging out with Emily, Brendan, Beth, Quentin, Dave Sr., his mom, and then one of the girls that was on the trip that I never saw again after that. And then there's conference and the ever-changing feelings for Dave Jr. that ended up as a friendship that should have started long ago. You have all my special Becky moments that I've had this summer. Having ear surgery, going to Dodge Center, the school starting, meeting Sean, not liking Sean, liking Sean. You have me getting news of leaving for Morocco, and yeah. And then I wrote a prayer, and then I signed my name, Bayleaf or Squirt, because Bayleaf is what Becky called me and Squirt is what Sean called me. Bayleaf and Squirt. And then I said finished 10:01 p.m. November 9th, 2003 in my room. And then it was done.
I would dance here forever if it brought you back to me. Oh, ain't it funny how never don't mean never, and all my life returns as I stare